notes. I just want you to know, Chantal, and I left them in my purse.
Woo! Yeah!
You wanted us to be raw, so I will be raw with my story. And I'm sorry, I guess Megan must have left because I wanted to tell her that I needed to bring her home to meet my mom because they'll get along just great. She can tell her all those stories of her religious pilgrimages. I am the daughter of Sicilian Catholic immigrant parents. My mother prayed the rosary every night, and for as long as I can remember, and she still does. My dad took us to Italy every year for months to keep us connected to our roots, and he'd love to take us back to all of the religious places and recount the stories over and over and over, and year after year. My sister and brother and I would be like, oh, okay, we know this. But you know, I don't know what adolescence was like for you, but for me it was probably one of the worst times of my life. I was overweight. I was the tallest and geekiest, I see a nod here, in my class. I was sad, I was lonely, I didn't have many friends, and I was depressed. At the age of 13, my family relocated from the Bronx to Westchester, where I didn't know a soul. And so I spent a lot of time with myself in my depression talking to God. So we have quite a few relationships, connections here with our higher power. And down the road from where we lived in Westchester, there was this beautiful stream. So I would go there and spend hours and hours smoking cigarettes, talking to him, because there was no one else really in my life that I could talk to. So we developed this wonderful relationship, God and I. And I remember this one particular day, I was very depressed, I was distraught. I don't remember exactly what happened. It was probably because some guy I liked didn't like me back. And I remember being very desperate, and I was desolate, and I was just crying and, you know, moments of death and wanting to end my life came up, and, you know, I just remember being so lonely and not having that other person to support me was really, really crucial for me at that moment. And I remember just like stopping and just saying, you know, I was kind of like getting even sick with God because he wasn't even giving me any feedback. I said, you know, if you're there, if you're listening, if I need anything, please send me a sign. Let me know. Send me something, anything. Let me know that you're there. Let me know that I'm worth something. And within moments, through the branches, through the leaves, this beam of light comes down and shines on me. And, you know, my first reaction was like, oh my God, I really got scared. I thought, you know, we're being invaded. I flipped out, my heart was, and I'm ready to hightail my butt out of there. And all of a sudden I hear this voice that was pretty much my own voice, like, no aliens, just me. And so, you know, I calmed down, that immediately calmed me down, and, you know, being the New Yorker, Bronx girl, and a skeptic, I said, you know what, one affirmation's not enough, I'm gonna ask for two. So I'm like, you know, God, if it is really you, like, I need to be sure, so please send me another sign. Just please, because if I'm going to tell anybody about this, I need to be 100% sure. Plus I'm a Virgo, so there you go. Within moments, an acorn falls down from the tree and hits my foot. That's it. You know what? Proof positive. There you go. I'm not going to ask for 3. I got 2. I'm happy. I am now feeling like I mean something to someone, to a spirit. And I can't wait to go running home to tell my mom so that we can bond over this religious experience that I've had. So I get home and I'm like, Mom, you're not going to believe this. You know all the stories, I heard about from Italy and how God, and Mother Mary and whoever appeared to these children. Well, guess what? It's happened to me. And my mother's just sitting there and she's like, she's like the Sicilian, a little heavy woman. She's got this smile on her face and she's just, really? That's so nice. Very inauthentic. And, well, I was like, okay, I didn't get the reaction I wanted, but I still felt great, and I went on my merry way until the next morning when my father comes down for breakfast, and he sits down next to me, and he says, Joya, he used to love to call me Joya, Joya, what's going on? You think you're seeing God? Well, my self-esteem was already so low, I just sunk lower, and that really closed me up for the next decade. Fast forward, a lot of baggage later, and a lot of work done on that baggage. I am now a Reiki master, certified in holographic memory resolution healing, and among many other healing practices. I'm married for the second time. I have 2 children, a daughter who's almost 13, and a 10-year-old son, and my daughter at the age of 6 was diagnosed with ADHD. My kids attended a prestigious school in Manhattan, and my daughter, like me at her age, wasn't quite fitting in. So I started getting phone calls, she's not focusing, and she's not on par with what we're teaching, and she's doodling, and on, and then finally I got the phone call to medicate her. I was like, wait a minute, I don't understand why. She wasn't disruptive. Academically, she was fine. She wasn't abusive. Why should I just medicate her? Well, if you want to keep her in the school, that's we're one size fits all, and that's the way it is. And I was distraught. This became my full-time job, all the research I needed to do, places I needed to take her, all alternative methods to heal her. 6 specialists later, no help, no answers, and only pills, which I refused to give her. I knew that with my extensive background in healing, pills weren't going to cure her. They were just going to be a Band-Aid and help her get through a year or 2. And I was determined to help her learn how to cope and develop skills to deal with her problem. And so eventually, the school, called, and I already said that they want us to medicate her. I'm not gonna tell you the story about the whole admissions process in New York City schools. I'll just tell you that it's a nightmare, and it's all about who you know. That's how you get in. It doesn't matter, nothing else depends on it. And because we wouldn't medicate her, they did not renew her contract, and they asked us to leave. Now that you know the admissions process, I'm scrambling because it's late in the year and I don't know where my kids are going to go to school that September, so I'm pulling every trump card I had, calling everybody I knew, trying to get into another school, only to be waitlisted. So out of desperation, I called the headmaster and asked him for a meeting, and I'm thinking, my husband and I thinking that we're going to try to convince him to give us another year at least to buy us some time. The day we go in to meet with him, he's rambling on and on and on about some, BS story, how he can't make an exception for us because then he's got to do it for other families, and there's lawsuits, and he just loved to hear himself talk. My husband and I were so disgusted, we left his office while he was still talking. And my daughter at the time, in her art class, they were studying horses. And the entire grade had painted these murals of horses. And in the gymnasium, they had this exhibit they were showing, and they had invited all the families up to see it. But on this particular day, as my husband and I are walking out, we go through the gymnasium to see this exhibit. And I walk in, and what strikes me is, there's 3 walls in front of me that I can see filled with these murals. And what I notice is that they're all the same. There's all these horses on 4 legs, grazing, looking at one another, but they're all basically the same. And I'm looking, I'm like, okay, wow, some study they did. So now I'm searching for my daughters, and I gotta go up and read the print, so I'm going over and I'm looking, and, my husband's like, Rose, take a look at this one. And I turn around, and I'm walking over to it, and it's this horse that's standing on its front legs, kicking its hind legs out. And as I get closer, I'm like, wow, I notice it's the only one that's different. It's the only one, and guess what? It's my daughter's. Okay? That was a moment for me. I stood there and I said to myself, wow, look at that. That's the diamond in the rough. That was my acorn moment. I said, why would I want to change her? Why would I want her to conform to an environment that doesn't accept her? I knew at that moment the battle was over. The battle within myself was over, and I knew that it was time for us to go. My daughter needed a community to support her the same way that we need community. I mean, isn't that why we're here? Yeah. I don't believe there's one path for everyone, but I do believe that everyone has a path. And that's why I started Rewire Me. I wanted to create a community where I could actually share my knowledge and give people hope. It started off as a seed, and it has blossomed into a beautiful tree. And the people in my community we share the same beliefs and experiences. And it's those beliefs and experiences that are the branches that connect us. And as your tree grows and your acorns appear, they'll fall to the earth and they'll grow more trees. Tonight when you leave, you will all get an acorn from me, from Rewire Me and our team, as a reminder to listen to that little voice inside of you that tells you what to do, who to turn to, which way to go. And it's a way for me to remind you, to rewire you, to speak the truth of who you are. Remember 3 things. Follow the signs, listen to your gut, rewire yourself to believe instead of doubt, because your brilliance and your acorn is waiting for you to show up. Thank you.